the sound design is possibly some of the best sound design I have ever heard since Mass Effect 1. And for me, that's a huge compliment.
There's a wonderful woman called Lizette Montgomery, and we worked together on a South Park a few years ago. Fun fact,
So do you want to dump on PlayStation about the PSVR2 or the PlayStation loses 2 million PS Plus subscribers?
Chris is having a breakdown, so I'll take over. The fact that a peripheral is more expensive than the base hardware is just mind-blowing to me. It blows my mind. Can you imagine buying a console and the controller that it doesn't come with is more expensive
than the actual thing?
Get out of the house, find yourself a girl, mate. Oh wait, you already did that. Get a hobby. Oh, you've already got one.
Completed it, mate.
Completed it. Achievement unlocked. Get a girl. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I'm Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill, and I am joined, as ever, by the indie developer, whatever else he is on the side, Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello there.
So today we've got, sorry, I've been away for a couple of weeks. We should probably mention that, right? I have been stupidly busy, and I had to sort of step back.
With what?
I can't talk about it. We'll talk about it soon, though, I'm sure, at some point. Maybe, one day.
Yeah.
That was about as
thank
ambiguous.
You to Sam.
Yeah, I was going to say massive thank you to Sam Webster for stepping in, because I've just been... I hit a few weeks ago, just you know what, Sundays, weekends basically turned into work as well. And I sort of realized I'm not going to be able to do the podcast for a couple of weeks. So Sam, could you please step in? And he was very kind enough to do that, and he did it swimmingly. I do have one piece of criticism, and that was his awful impression of me on that first episode that he did. What
did he even say? He said it in just total Yorkshire accent.
Oh yeah, it was just it was so off. It was just
just uptown,
generic northern accent. It was just Scousers don't sound like that, mate. You know, we sound completely different. It's the difference between someone from Cornwall and London. That's basically what he did. It's just it was just all kinds of bad. So shame on you, sir. It was awful, but everything else was great. Thank you very much for stepping in. I will get my revenge one day. Maybe. I'm not going to do an impression of you.
So what are we talking about this week, Ben?
A bit of bad news surrounding PlayStation, unfortunately. We don't like bashing on PlayStation or anyone in particular, but PlayStation have had a couple of headlines which are kind of ugh. We need to sort of discuss that. Nothing too crazy. I'm not we're not just dogging on them for the sake of dogging on them. It's just everything is sort of slow this week. We've got, obviously, Sony have had good news. They've been doing very, very well with God of War Ragnarok, getting very good reviews. I think it's sat at 94 or 95 or something like that on Metacritic right now. So
it's one of the highest Metacritic ratings ever.
Turn your phone off, man. I can just hear it buzzing. God, just move it.
I'll put it there. It's off the table.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm popular.
Well, you know. Are you? Are you?
Well, by one person at the minute.
Okay. Well, tell her I said hi. But yeah, I mean they've done really, really well with God of War. But there does come some balancing with that. A lot of complaints around
the noise of the PlayStation 4. It sounds like a jet engine. Unsurprisingly, that happens every year. There's a console change, and you're playing on the minimum spec console. So
I mean, I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, the PlayStation 4 just in general just sounds like a jet engine anyway, because it's just not. I mean, the system was designed in 2013, right? Well, designed in probably 2010 or something, and we're still playing games on it 12 years later. So the fact that it can run God of War Ragnarok is sort of amazing.
It's pretty a testament, isn't it?
Yeah. So the fact that it sounds like a jet engine is sort of just put some headphones on or just buy a PlayStation 5. It's really up to you.
That's what my immediate reaction was to that. I was like, why are they even playing it with TV speakers?
Right.
Because the headline was they had to turn their TV up. It's one, why aren't you listening to it loud anyway? It's God of War Ragnarok.
Right.
Two, why aren't you wearing some decent headphones like these Arctis Pro wireless headphones that I've got? I don't know.
Not sponsored.
Call yourself gamers. Call yourself gamers. No, we're not sponsored.
We are
I
absolutely
just like it.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just that was a funny complaint. I don't really. I've never really agreed with them sort of sentiments. I mean, yeah, it sucks that like if it just didn't run, if it was like Cyberpunk again, then fair enough. But like the fact that the game runs and it just like boots up the fans, it's like all right, fair enough.
Yeah, that's a good trade-off. For like how much money have you saved without buying a PS4 Pro or a PS5?
Yeah.
Fair amount of money, which we'll come on to later.
We will. We absolutely will. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, man, I figured we'd jump straight into what have you been playing? Like, we want to get this one out of the way first.
You want to get that out of the way?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Like, because it's going to be like we're going to be going into a little bit of negative with Sony, so I figured like it'll be good to get some positive stuff out of the way first.
Okay, so I've been playing Psychonauts 2, and I've been playing A Plague's Tale Requiem.
Oh, Xbox games, great! And like this seems fair.
And I've been loving it. It's been
fair enough.
Plague's Tale Requiem. The sound design is possibly some of the best sound design I have like ever heard since Mass Effect 1, and for me that's a huge compliment.
Like, I haven't played this game yet. I really want to. Like, I love the first game. I think I was the one that recommended you for the first one.
You did. Yeah. And I wasn't really too fussed. I was like, meh, it looks okay. It looks a bit adventure-y. It looks a bit meh. And I heard that it was a small team that made it. I was like, it's going to cut some corners. And the second game, with my icks, if you will, with the first game, totally and utterly, completely addressed in the second game. And it was around game design choices.
Right.
Yeah. And then everything else has just been elevated, like number of assets, like the environments are just more epic, the vegetation and the feeling of like being scared. It's kind of spooky at times. And like, yeah, it gets you going. The heart rate goes. And I think a lot of that is down to the sound design. Like I'm listening to it, and I'm like picking things out on the sound design. I'm like, ooh, that's really good, because I play games in my like game design mode, and then it does that thing that very, very, very few games do, which is like it makes me forget about criticizing the game and actually just play the game. And for a game designer, that's very rare. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And Psychonauts 2 is great as well, but I hardly play that. I just, because I'm playing it with a 6-year-old, I'm just running around the base. Yeah. Just interacting with things and people and jumping on stuff. Started to play one of the first main missions after the initial intro. And yeah, really fun. And my boy is like weeks later quoting lines and enemies and mechanics and things. So they did a good job.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a name drop, but the art director on Psychonauts 2 is a wonderful woman called Lizette Montgomery, and we worked together on South Park like a few years ago. Fun fact, like a fact which I kind of regret at times, is the like she actually offered me a gig on that game at one point, and I turned it down because I'd just been offered a job at Ubisoft Montreal. So like I kind of
interesting. Okay, well that's
yeah. Well, I go back and forth.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is
that's a tough one.
It's like work on Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, and Far Cry and stuff, or work out,
or Psychonauts 2.
But it's Double Fine as well. That's the problem. That's the biggest regret is like not going to work at Double Fine, considering the type of game which I'm making now in Long Gone, which is an adventure game. Double Fine is run by Tim Schafer, which is like the OG of that stuff. Like he worked on Monkey Island and stuff like that. Like he's the dude. You know what I mean? So
the new Monkey Island is my next game to play. Actually, no, probably God of War is, but then after that, Monkey Island's on the list.
I've got so many games on my list right now. It hurts me. It really does pain me. But yeah, that's little side story aside.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should say well done. Chris says well done.
Yeah.
She'll know,
of course. No, I mean the only thing I was playing was downloaded it last night because I got my first evening off in like 2 months last night. I know. Downloaded Modern Warfare 2. I've been playing through that.
The remaster, is it?
No, not the remaster. The new one. The new one. The reboot, you could say. Like it's
reboot. Okay.
I really enjoyed the first Modern Warfare, like the most recent Modern Warfare that came out a couple of years ago. It's probably the best Call of Duty campaign I've played in like a decade. Like really, really good. really solid. So I was really excited to jump into this one as well. I don't really play multiplayer that much on Call of Duty anymore, but I do like the campaigns. Like I do actually still enjoy those.
Yeah.
And yeah, jumped in about 4 hours into it. I'm enjoying it so far. It's very blockbustery. It's very AAA. It's very Call of Duty. Shooting by guys, you know, like different locations, different characters, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
That's nice. That's nice because the last time you spoke about shooters, it's just been critical through and through. So it's good to see you playing a shooter that you're enjoying.
I like playing first-person shooters. Like the last one which I properly played was Battlefield 5, and that was atrocious. Like that game was a dump. It still kind of is, from what I've heard. They really need to have a fresh, clean slate over at EA at DICE. It's just kind of like that game is dried up sort of thing. They really need to start listening to the fans instead of trying to like just copy other people. It was really.
Is that where they dumped in like Godzilla for just no apparent reason?
No, there's a storm system in there, so like tornadoes are like going through the maps and stuff, which is fine. Like it's a cool element and stuff, but it's just they changed so much in Battlefield 5. A lot of technical issues. Looked like a last gen game in my opinion. It just did not. I'm talking about last gen as in it looked like a PlayStation 3 game at times. It didn't really look that great. The new character class customization stuff that they brought in was very much just lifted from Rainbow Six Siege, and they just dropped it into Battlefield. It just did not fit. I don't think it just didn't feel right, like at all. And they have since removed that and stripped that out and gone back to the original sort of class-based system of like the medic and the engineer and stuff. So it's kind of, it was just very strange that they just decided to go completely against the grain on that game. It sort of hit them in the face, like massive slap in the face of the fans. It just wasn't, it just was not a good game. So I trashed the hell out of it, rightfully so. But I've heard that they've made...
But Modern Warfare's good.
Yeah, Modern Warfare's pretty decent. It's very part of the course, which is kind of what you want out of a shooter, right? Like, I don't really want them to reinvent the wheel too much. There's some interesting aspects to it. Like, there's a mission in Call of Duty in the new Modern Warfare 2, which is you have to, like, infiltrate, like, buildings and stuff, and you have the option to either, like, sweep through or climb up onto the roof and throw, like, tear gas through the vents, and they all come running out and stuff, and you can pop them off, and there's a lot of like unique things like that, but like they're not completely disrupting the general formula of the core spine of the game, which it's still an FPS, but they are experimenting within that space, which is I have a lot more respect for Call of Duty for that, because Call of Duty is a funny one because we've gotten to the point now where the industry just doesn't really talk about Call of Duty whatsoever. Like
it just is its own giant that just lives on Mount Olympus and exists.
Exactly.
And, doesn't
like
interact
the
with
reviews come out and gamers are like, yeah, it's good or it's bad, and then it gets ignored for the rest of the year. Like nobody talks about it. However, it's one of the biggest selling games of the year. Like it's a massive, massive title. I try and play the campaign at least every one of them comes out. Like I never really play the multiplayer anymore. I'm sort of out of that loop. I go online. I got my ass actually handed to me.
Die
like,
instantly. Yeah.
I mean, you've got 16-year-olds on summer vacation that hopped up on Red Bull. It's just like you've got no chance, man. Like that's all they do is just play that one game. They get one game and that's all they play, and they get amazing at it, rightfully so. So like I come in like, how do I shoot this thing? I'm just instantly dead. Like it's not a fun experience for the most part, but I do enjoy the campaigns because
they should have like age ratings on like lobbies. But like I am, 30 to 45 bracket, and we can play with all the other 30 to 45-year-olds.
Just say what you mean, Chris. Like play like we wish that the old people had their own lobby.
Place,
right?
Yeah,
a safe place for the old people. I mean, I'd probably play that. But yeah, like mostly though, it's very Call of Duty. I'm not enjoying it as much as the first Modern Warfare, but it's still very enjoyable. Like it's a blockbuster game. Like when I say blockbuster, I don't mean like it's amazing. I mean it's very big over the top, big set pieces, explosions, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Like one point, you fall out of a helicopter and you've got your leg tied to a rope and you're shooting people upside down and stuff like as flying between traffic. Like it's just ridiculous, but it's entertaining. It's fun, Yeah. It's like the ultimate sort of escapism in that respect. But yeah, if you want to feel like a badass like SAS dude hanging upside down in the helicopter, then go play that game.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. That sounds good. I'm glad you got some time to play a game.
Yeah, man, 4 hours. Like I was jumping up and celebrating last night. It was great. Remains to be seen if that lasts, but we'll see.
So, do you want to dump on PlayStation about the PSVR2 or the PlayStation loses 2 million PS Plus subscribers?
Like Chris is having a breakdown, so I'll take over. So PlayStation Plus losses. Let's get that one out of the way. So I can sort of read the headline, but the PlayStation Plus service is not doing too fantastically. Revenue is up apparently, but the subscriber count is down. In its latest set of financial results, Sony has revealed that PlayStation Plus lost nearly 2 million subscribers between July and September 2022, following its relaunch in June. Obviously, they've had their... They tried to compete with Xbox, which they still are. To be absolutely clear, like PlayStation still has like double the subscriber count of what Game Pass does at the moment. I think Game Pass is at like 25 million or something, and PlayStation Plus is at 45, I think, after this. Yeah, 45.4 if you want to be like specific about it. So they're still massive, but
still huge. It's like nearly double Xbox's Game Pass.
Yeah.
And their actual, it was interesting that their actual network monthly active users was down as well for those 3 months. So it was at 102 million, declining from 104 million a year earlier, and 103 million the previous quarter. So there's been a definite dip. Could that be to do with the cost of living? I know that in America the inflation rate went up as well. In the UK it's gone up.
Yeah.
Could there be factors in that? Is it wholly PlayStation's terrible PlayStation Plus service with not many games available to play?
Yeah, because it's not like it's hard to tell because when it comes to Xbox have still been increasing. They're still growing. So like that doesn't seem to be like an industry, like across the board industry case. It seems to be just a Sony thing, which, you know, like it even says on this Polygon article, which I'm reading from, it says it's not all bad news for Sony. Despite the number of PlayStation Plus users declining, the overall monthly active users are also going down from 103 million to 102. Network service revenue, which includes PlayStation Plus subscription revenue, increased by 10%. This is presumably due to the users that are signed up for higher tiers. So even though they're losing users, they're losing people like actually using the service, they've still gained more money because like the people that are subscribed are resubbing to the higher tiers, like going to like the PlayStation Classic tier.
Oh, interesting.
So they're still gaining money. Like it's not all bad news, but like ideally,
it's a win for them. Like less
ideally, they would like both.
To manage and more money. I think they're winning at capitalism.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, but like what they would much prefer to do is say, okay, if we just maintained the 47 million and then they all applied to the higher tier, that's what they would actually want. But that's not what's happening. So,
and then what's Xbox done in comparison? Did they went from they're at Xbox Game Pass are at 25 million subscribers, so less than PlayStation by a fair amount, but last year had 18 million.
They're just growing.
So they've grown huge amount from last year, but PlayStation seemed to be dwindling. So that's interesting.
I mean it's strange because we're in this weird period right now for both Xbox and PlayStation, because when it comes to Xbox in particular, the fact that they've gone from 18 to 25 million is sort of like, what makes that so impressive is the fact that they've had pretty much no new games come out this year. Like they've had a really bad year, like in terms of releases. Like Xbox have not done well whatsoever. Like they were really banking on Starfield being out like now, basically, to compete with God of War. Like that
for the
was
Christmas period. Yeah,
and that would have boosted them like crazy. The thing that they have got for them is like while they've been in this downturn, they've just been piling these games into Game Pass like nobody's business, like Plague's Tale, Requiem, like, you know, all these other games that are coming, like every game that pretty much comes out day one. Like Scorn came out, I think that's an Xbox exclusive. It wasn't reviewed very well, but it's still free. It's just there on the service. So if you're subscribed to it, then it's like, yeah, I'll download it, I'll play it, whatever. And there's just and pretty much every single month there's at least one of those games just like coming in where it's like it's not a heavy hitter, but it's just like it's enough to sort of keep you engaged and keep people coming in and keep fresh eyes coming in. Sony just don't have that luxury because they just don't have new games on the service. Pretty much they only bring in older games into that sort of thing. It's not included. Like the one game that they did do was Stray, and that was like only because it was
successful.
It's very successful. Great game. It's just one of those things where it was like it was a smaller game. It wasn't like a huge game. They haven't really got the stock to do that yet. Like God of War Ragnarok will not be a day one exclusive. It will not be a day one thing on PlayStation Plus. Unfortunately, it's just they just don't have the map out.
Might never because it's a premium game. I've got a theory. I think people aren't renewing them, because they know God of War's coming out and they're like, it's a single player game, it's not multiplayer, I don't need to pay a subscription. I've been playing that for ages. It's not going to be on PS Now. I'll just buy God of War when it comes out and I'll save myself some money with the subscription.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. This is like the sort of catch-22 with Sony, right? Is this whole, like they focus on the single player action adventure game, right? Single player, like you don't need to be online whatsoever. So then they're pushing this like, oh, you need to be signed up with PlayStation Plus if you want to play online. It's like, all right, sweet. What games are on PlayStation?
Where are the multiplayer games?
Like it's a weird sort of system to be pushing. So they've sort of shot themselves in the foot for like putting themselves into this market. And I think that's why they're making so much noise about the acquisition of Blizzard, because they're like, crap, if
online games,
right? Like if Call of Duty is just free on Game Pass, even though it's still available on PlayStation, people are just going to start shifting over there, and I wouldn't blame them either. So it's kind of it is a very sort of weird dynamic to this industry where PlayStation have set themselves up like that, where like, yeah, we are, and they absolutely are. They're the gods of the single player game pretty much at this point, which is fantastic. It's great. Like, it's good that they're there. We need single player games, but if they're trying to sell this side service, they need to do better. Basically, it's just, I think a lot of these issues that they've got, like why they're losing subscribers is purely because they just don't have the games. Pretty much, like there's no real reason. Like Sony have for years not had a subscription service like this, and what that's done is made it so like most PlayStation users have bought all the games that they want to play for the most part. That's certainly been the case with me, because I go and look through subscription. I go and look through the PlayStation Plus subscription thing, and I'm looking at all the games that I want to play. It's like, oh, I already bought that. Oh, I already played that. I've already played that. I've already played that one as well. And then between them are just all the games that you didn't want to play, right? So what I've got is just this long list in PlayStation Plus where I'm just like, I've either played them or I never wanted to play them in the first place.
Well, Sam was saying this last week, and his I think he might be a minority, but it was an interesting point that he said that when it's on a subscription-based service, even though he's got it on his shelf behind him, it's just quicker and easier when he's surfing to just load up something that's instantly on a subscription service.
Yeah, that's more of a point for digital ownership rather than subscription-based stuff. Because I switched to digital like 10 years ago now, and I've never really looked back. I don't really have any physical games. The only physical games I've got is on my Switch. That's it.
Yeah.
But like on all my other consoles, I'm 100% digital, which I can absolutely agree with that. Like the not having to get up and put a disc in seems like a small thing, but it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference after a while.
About what you actually play, what you actually end up playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, is that a point for subscription or digital though? I'm not really sure, but yeah.
Don't know.
For me, like the biggest issue which I've got with the PlayStation Plus service, and I'm like a premium tier member at the moment, I've absolutely like turned off that that renewal. I'm not going to be resubscribing to the premium. Is just that their classic library, like their top tier thing, is just awful. Like it's just terrible.
Nothing on there.
It's really not. There's not enough. I think there's less than 20 PlayStation 1 games, and they're all kind of like, not the best games in the world. Like, you could absolutely do better. There's massive heavy hitters. Like, where are the deals with Square Enix to get Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 on here? Like, where are those games? Like, why?
That would sell. people
why can't I play? There's so many issues with this, and like the concern which I had originally was that Sony gonna put games on their classic service when they've done a remake and they can sell that for $20 on their main platform instead, and that's kind of absolutely come true. It's just there's a lot of games
with The Last
out there.
of Us.
Yeah, well, not The Last of Us per se. It's just there's the like the issues of a lot of PlayStation 1 and 2 games which have been remade or remastered. It just that just getting completely ignored. Like, why can't I play Eco on there like natively? Oh wait, yeah, because there's a remaster, and the remaster is on the PlayStation 3, and you can only stream that. You can't actually play
it. And you can't stream it. Yeah.
It's irritating as hell. And I know, like, I use Eco as like it's a bad example because obviously I'm going to bring that up. But I mean, it goes for absolutely everything though. Like all of the games that you can think of that have had a PS3 remaster are not going to appear on the PlayStation 2 sort of native playing the game on the PlayStation 5, which is a damn shame in my opinion. There's so many classic games that people just don't have access to because they don't want to stream it right now.
Yeah,
it's
and for
awful.
people that don't know, it's because of the architecture of the PS3. It's just too difficult, or at least too costly, for PlayStation to bother to port it over to the PS5, or didn't do for the PS4 either.
Yeah, there's like that argument never holds too much water for me because PlayStation have had in the past they've shown examples of them going against the grain on that and being like, okay, we're just not going to develop this emulator and just use this open source one, and they've done that. Like the quote unquote illegal emulators that are floating around on the internet, Sony have used those in the PlayStation Classic. Like, so other people, like fans of these games, have made an emulator. PlayStation have gone, we'll use that in the PlayStation Classic, and that's completely legal and absolutely fine because it's open source. Like you can just go, you can go and download and make a fork from GitHub or whatever and figure that out. But there are PlayStation 3 emulators where they could absolutely do the same.
So is it just a suit with a spreadsheet looking at some numbers and going, nope, not going to do that?
It kind of feels that way. Like they could absolutely put the time and effort to do this. Or is it better for them to just be like, you know what, all of these great PlayStation 3 games that people will probably lose access to, when we start introducing them as remakes, we'll be able to get that cash. And the problem with Sony is now, well, not a problem, but the benefit of Sony, it is a problem in my opinion. The benefit that comes with that for Sony, I should say, is that they've quietly made this shift over the past 2 years of making remakes and then charging full price for them, like $70, like The Last of Us, Demon's Souls. Before that, things like Shadow of Colossus is a great example. That was a $40 game. The Ratchet and Clank remake, $40 game. So great. Yeah, they're remakes. Like they've solved all those problems. That's why I've got a problem with The Last of Us remake being $70. It's like, okay, it's more money than the original and it's less work.
Well,
it's gross.
Yeah.
And it just, like, when you look at all of it, you take a step back and you look at all of this in context, you kind of see why there isn't more PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games, because they've got plans for this shit in the future. Like it's kind of gross, but that is the reality of it. They want to sell you games for $70 if they are remakes because they're just easy cash grabs for them, to be blunt.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of like what happened with film. That went through a phase with film where people were complaining about like Disney doing like live action remakes of animated classics.
Sure.
And they're not doing them well. I know this is a video game podcast, but it's kind of like similar media
Apples
comparison there.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems to have this same smell of corporate greed at the base of it, rather than like passion projects for a team of people that really want to see something have a different spin on a game. So that's a real shame. Yeah. I
know that. I mean, that's my opinion for the subscription service going down. I just don't think Sony have the best interest at heart for gamers at this point. Like they're getting very money grabby recently. Like they've increased the price of the PlayStation 5. Obviously, the economy's gone to crap globally.
Yeah.
But it annoyed me that they were like, okay, yeah, we're going to raise the price of the PlayStation 5 everywhere but the United States. It's like, that's interesting, isn't it?
Oh, that's mean.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of gross, don't you think, Sony? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that, which is just kind of like the $70 remakes included with that.
Yeah.
And then we come to the PlayStation VR2 that gets announced, and it very much falls in line with that for me anyway. But we can dive into.
We can get into that. We can dive into that. I initially thought the same thing. So when I saw was it $500 price tag on it?
It's more than that. It's like 500 and God, what was it? 550.
$550. Ugh. I was just like, yuck. And what got me there, be like, that's terrible. Like, we shouldn't be selling that. It's too expensive. Is because the when I bought my Quest headset, VR headset,
yeah,
that was like $300, and it was great value. And it just seemed to be the turning point of like previous generations of technology in today's current modern hardware at a discounted price. So it was like it was taking the best bits of the previous generation of like top end like $1,000 headsets, and then the Quest, the Meta Quest now?
It's Meta Quest 2, yeah.
No, the Meta Quest 2 is out. Again, it seemed like, oh, it's affordable because it's like what happens with technology. When it's cutting edge, it's expensive, and then when it's second or third generation and you make it smaller and faster and better, the price gets less. And it's like, yes, that's what you need. You need affordable hardware for mass market appeal. When everyone gets to play it, then that's when the games are going to come along. You need the pioneers, of course, but they had already been in the previous generations that were spending like thousands of dollars on hardware for like VR. So where I saw the technology going was getting cheaper and more accessible and more popular. And then PlayStation announced, this $550 PSVR2, and it just seemed to go against the grain of that thought pattern, and because it's more expensive than the freaking console when it was originally launched.
Yeah.
So that's what you thought as well, right, Vin? What was your initial thoughts?
My initial like knee-jerk reaction was just like, yeah, no, that's because I put it in context of the price for the console that it's on. Like the PlayStation 5 right now is like $500 if you're not in America anyway, because they raised the price on it. But the fact that a peripheral is more expensive than the base hardware is just mind blowing to me. It blows my mind. Can you imagine buying a console and the controller that it doesn't come with is more expensive?
It's more expensive than the actual thing.
Obviously, that's a bad comparison. Like, I know that's a weak shot, but I'm trying to put it into context. And like knee-jerk reaction to that was just, yeah, no, that's a bad idea, guys. You probably shouldn't do that. Yeah.
And then I was thinking like, they did that, and they knew that they knew they were going to sell it, and I bet there won't be anything good on there. And then, but what is on there will be praised, kind of like Nintendo. Like PlayStation VR have got their fanboys, and they just sing PlayStation VR praises because the content they do is gold standard, is brilliant, is amazing. I totally believe everything they say.
The software that PlayStation do is it
top
gets the credit it deserves.
Game designers, but it's still very, very few and far between in terms of amount of content. Like people are left wanting more, and that seems to be they're carved out a niche and seem to be supplying for a niche rather than what I want, which is like mass market appeal. Like I want to. That's kind of where I'm more interested in with my video game journey in my life at the moment.
No, that's a valid point though. Like they're not scoping out, they're scoping in sort of thing.
Yeah,
like they're looking for the original PlayStation VR buyers that really bought into that, and they're like, okay, we're just going to appease these people, which is a really small amount of people.
What would they want? They would, people that played PSVR 1 are more likely to spend more money. That's what they found in a focus group, and they're willing to pay this much money. That's what my initial thought was. But we've done some research, done some digging, done some looking into it, and my opinion has somewhat changed.
Okay.
And I can understand where they came up with that money. And we did discuss this briefly in the pre-show, but yeah, I've been looking at some people's opinions that are in the VR community. And yeah, you have to take whatever they say with a pinch of salt because they're biased. They want to get some stuff. They want to get.
Sure.
They don't want to. Yeah.
They don't want to ruffle any feathers because
they don't ruffle any feathers. Yeah. Their honesty might be contained to some degree to protect any future involvement with said manufacturers.
Sure. Yeah.
But when you actually compare with what is on the market now, PlayStation have positioned themselves in a certain place that is in the middle of the field. And so that is kind of fair enough. And the middle of the field, unfortunately, is $550. Regardless of what the base PlayStation 5 is, middle of the field in terms of the VR community and the VR games and VR experiences, that's kind of middle ground. So if you compare it to upgrading your graphics card, again, I'm taking some... I scoured a YouTuber's video that had mixed opinions, and then I'm just copying what I found on people's messages, and they resonated with me, so I'm just copying them. So yeah, you could upgrade your graphics card if you've got a PC to like a 4090, and that is the same equivalent of like getting the PS2 VR. And when you think of it in that respect, like it's just the cost of one upgrade on your graphics card. That's what people do all the time in the PC gaming industry, the world, if you like.
Sure.
So in that comparison, yeah, $550 isn't too much. And what you get in comparison to a graphics card is a whole bunch of stuff. Another thing that I hadn't thought about is, someone wrote, it doesn't compare to the Pico 4 in terms of spec. Pico 4 has higher resolution than the PS2 VR, better lenses, built-in speakers, wireless capability, and standalone portability. Because obviously the PS2 VR is like wired, isn't it?
Yes.
But PlayStation, PSVR2 has got better field of view, better refresh rate, OLED lenses, so darker darks and lighter lights, and has haptic feedback because PlayStation are great at haptics.
Sure.
So it comes down to a choice of what you value, and those are huge ranges. Like some people are totally going to champion resolution, and some people are totally going to value like refresh rate, and some people are totally going to value field of view. And so it seems like there is a place that it seems like PlayStation are filling a potential need that is in the space. So in that respect, I'm like, okay, I didn't think of it in comparison to the Pico 4. So yeah, fair enough. And probably in comparison to the Pico 4, the games that are going to be available are going to be totally different, because obviously the PS2 VR is not going to be hooked up to a PC. You're not going to be able to play PC VR games. They're going to have some money behind them giving to exclusive experiences, which are no doubt going to be top end. Like,
all right, all of that being the case, are you going to buy it?
No, not in a million years.
Why?
I can't afford it.
Exactly.
That's
you just answered your own debate.
Yeah.
Like you just answered it.
Yeah.
I mean, all valid points. Don't get me wrong. Like, but is a $600 console too much?
Yes.
Why? PC's like $2,000, man. Why not? Why is that too expensive? It's only $600.
Functionality. Like I can make money with my PC.
But PC, like you could hook it up as a console in your living room, just put it in your TV and just use it as a console. A lot of people do
Interesting.
See what I mean? Same argument. It's kind of fascinating. It's an absolute valid point, but it's only valid to the people that aren't
already invested in spending that much money in VR. Yeah.
Right. So if you're not a PC gamer, is $550 too much for a VR headset? Yes. If you are a PC gamer, no.
Then it's no.
But
if you spent £1,000 on a VR headset, a better one for $500 seems like chump change.
Exactly. So there's you got to look at the market share in terms of like gamers in that respect then, and say, okay, so a PlayStation 5 owner that is looking at this VR headset, how many of those are also going to be hardcore PC gamers that have got high-end PCs? There is absolutely a cross-section of people there that look at this and see the inherent value of only a $550 headset, like a head-mounted display like this with these specs. So it's like, whoa, this is a good deal sort of thing.
It's got the PlayStation badge, so they know there's going to be that inherent quality that comes with it.
So there's that side of it, but then there's the other side of that, which is like, okay, just the PlayStation 5 owners only, which I would argue
console owners
is the majority.
Vast majority.
Yeah, it's gotta be
they're going to be angry. Yeah, like, what? I can't afford that. In this economy, you got to be joking.
Exactly. So there's a lot of that, and then on top of that, there is a lot of benefits to the PlayStation VR 2. Absolutely. And the games look amazing. Like the Horizon game, which I will not play because I'm terrified of heights, but it looks incredible. because like you're climbing up the side of the mountain and all that sort of stuff, and the bow and arrow, everything looks amazing. It looks incredible, right? Software's there, hardware's there, that's great. However, if it does still have its down points, which is it's still a wired headset. It still requires a PlayStation 5, so it's not a $550 system. It's a $1,050 system.
Oh yeah.
So
if you're about it like that,
if you're not already in the ecosystem, then it's like you're looking at the whole package, and you compare that $1,050 package to the Quest 3, which is probably just around the corner.
Yeah.
So if the Quest 3 comes out and that's $299 and it's like twice as good, it's wireless.
Yeah, you can play any PC game on it.
Right.
Not any PC game, any PC
like
VR compatible PC game. Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. There's a lot of muddy areas in that, and it's the same argument for the Quest 2 as well, because like if you are like you're going to get the most benefit out of that if you are a PC owner. So then it sort of flips that whole argument backwards again. Yeah, because
if you've got a decent graphics card, then that Quest 2 is going to look great. Yeah,
you know, and it's kind of like it's a bit early to tell for me if this is going to be a good idea or not. My gut feeling tells me that it's too much. Like they really needed to keep this under the price of the console, because that's what fans of PlayStation console only owners are going to look at. It's going to be like, am I really going to pay for like another PlayStation 5 just to maybe enjoy this experience? Which is still wired. It's still, you know, I haven't really got the room for it in my house and stuff like that. It's a tough sell. Like it's really, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. But I absolutely see the benefit in what VR fans are saying, because like them comments which you were mentioning, like, well, valid again. They're kind of, they are the audience.
They're the target audience. Yeah,
exactly.
So the target audience are defending it. Yeah, of course.
They're going to be like, yeah, man, this looks incredible. It's a great deal. It's like, of course they're gonna say that. Like, go and look at comments on like the PlayStation forums, though. The people that aren't exposed to VR that much because they've been stuck in the PlayStation
that wanted this
ecosystem.
To be the gateway, and that aren't Xbox owners. They could only afford one console. They're PlayStation through and through, which is totally fine. They're not being catered for, and there's a huge market that would love like a $200, $300 PlayStation connected to the PS5, like that had that PlayStation quality and the PlayStation IP that they love.
It is a fascinating sort of thing to look at when you take a step back like that, because while like the specs are amazing, don't get me wrong, like the OLED lenses and stuff and the resolution, the haptics are going to be great. Like inside of, I can imagine that in the controllers and stuff, it'll feel great, I'm sure. Like it'd be amazing. However,
nothing else like it. I
just don't think people care. Like the average gamer doesn't really care about those specs too much on this stuff anyway. Like, and there's evidence for that, right? Like you go onto Steam and you go and look at the most used headsets, the most used VR headsets on the Steam platform. Can you ever guess what it is? Like out of all, like the Vive and all that sort of stuff, like Valve have got their own headsets, all that sort of stuff. Guess what the most popular headset is by like a long shot? And I mean, like the second is like 10% of what is used from the first one.
Is it the predecessor to the Quest? Is it like the one before that?
It's Quest 2. People are hooking it up to their PCs, even though that's like the weakest one.
Oh.
It's because it's the cheapest, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really that simple. It's the cheapest and it's wireless. Like the killer feature for me, as someone that dabbles in VR, is wireless. Like that is the most important thing in my opinion. Like by a long shot.
Battery doesn't really matter.
Not really. I mean, because if it lasts 4 hours, because you don't want to play it more than 4 hours anyway. Like if you just you get in the habit of taking it off and plugging it in straight away, and then you don't have to worry about it ever. Like I've never been playing in VR and my batteries run out ever. I just haven't. No, it's just never been a thing. So it's just a little bit strange. Like they've sort of missed a trick there. They could have done a lot with wireless capability. Like there's two modems in the PS5. It's like you absolutely could have done this. Like without a doubt. It's kind of strange that they didn't to me. Feels like this is a bit of a missed trick.
Yeah. And also when you think about that like $1,050 and it's a wired system, it's like
right.
It's a bit old fashioned, right?
Yeah, it feels like it's a little bit behind.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is the thing, like we don't know what the Quest 3 is. Like we're comparing this to the Quest 2 and we're comparing it to the other sort of PC offerings and stuff. But within the next probably 6 months, we're probably going to get an announcement for the Quest 3 and what that's going to look like. And what we're going to be able to connect it to, and like the functionality our thing is going to have to be able to connect to computers. What happens when Phil Spencer sparks up a deal with Facebook? Like, you know what? Let's have VR on the Xbox wireless.
Well, have you heard about all these this real estate that's happening with Meta Quest? Like companies like Ferrari and Gucci and Adidas, they're like buying real estate in like the metaverse. And they've got like physical location, like the size of a house or 2 houses, and there are people like doing businesses there, like selling clothes and things in the actual metaverse, and that companies are spending like multiple millions of dollars to pay for these spaces
because they've got their eye on the end goal, which is the vision of like Ready Player One. You know what I mean? Like the actual metaverse of being in this space where like you've got your own avatar and like everything around you is sort of,
and the avatar's more, you spend more money on your avatar clothes and you do your own clothes
and stuff like that, and they're betting on that big time. Like they're just planting the seed, because like how much like investment they're putting into the metaverse right now is just a fraction of the amount it's going to be in 10 years time, like when they do have to actually buy this stuff of real money. You know what I mean?
Well, I can kind of see where they're coming from with this whole cost of living crisis. It's like if I could just wear a sack from reality, but everyone thinks I'm wearing an Armani suit, that's a cheaper option.
Yeah. I mean, we're already kind of hitting this point with like people's fake avatars like being more impressive than the real life thing, right? Like look at streamers, look at like the culture. That's
exactly what Instagram is.
Exactly.
It's presenting an augmented version of your reality.
And what if you could go on Instagram and like portray like an even sexier version, or like an even more like in shape person, or a more successful version? Like just I mean, we're kind of like we're twisting the way that we look right now, but if you could just like make a whole new look completely, that's what we're going for. And be able to do anything in augmented reality as well, or like at virtual reality whatsoever, like being able to socialize and communicate and work within that space, be educated within that.
Yeah, I've seen all these job postings and that where it's like, it's funny. They say, oh, you must have like 7 years experience in like virtual reality meeting spaces. And it's like, okay, good luck finding someone that's got 7 years experience in something that has, I don't think, like, that technology that hasn't existed for 6 months and still doesn't exist. It's very
we're not infancy. There yet. I would absolutely disagree that we're there.
Companies aren't
too soon
putting their headsets on and having meetings, are they?
No, they're really not, and they will one day. Like they'll get to the point where when it's just a set of glasses that we can look through and we can turn VR on or off based on like what we're doing, and we can just take the glasses off.
It'll be mixed reality where you have a desk and you clear the desk. Or you might even need to clear the desk. You can have a messy desk.
You wouldn't need a desk. That's the point. You would need a keyboard spot. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like a keyboard spot and a place to put your drinks. That's it. And that's if you
somewhere
even
to sit.
Yeah.
It's just somewhere to sit.
Basically. I mean, the mixed reality stuff is absolutely fascinating to me. I think that is close. The technology is close, but the hardware isn't. Like the actual wearable is garbage right now. It's too bulky and it's crap and it's just plasticky. It's in the way. It's cumbersome. But when we do get it down to just the side glasses, that's when it's just the whole industry is going to shift. TVs are going to be obsolete. Like stuff like that is kind of insane. Like office space is just going to completely change. Like we can just set the weather on our AR so it can be a sunny day whenever we want. Like if you live in England, that might be a good thing.
Increase the brightness of your surroundings.
Exactly. And stuff like that, which, inherent, like it's the benefits are obvious, absolutely obvious. But for everything else, it's kind of like, we've got a while to go. And VR is there as well. We're kind of this is in time. That's why it's kind of strange to me that PlayStation have made the choice to still go with wired instead of just losing a bit of their spec and keeping the price down, going wired like that. I think that would have been a smart way of doing it. But they've decided to go this hardcore console fan route, which fans will absolutely buy it. Don't get me wrong. There are rabid PlayStation fans out there. But
that are like, this is answer to their prayers. 100%. There'll be lots of people that fits that. But
there might be some software that comes along that just absolutely like sort of lifts the PlayStation VR2. Like if Half-Life Alyx comes out for the PlayStation VR2, I'm pretty sure that's going to boost their sales quite a lot. Like being able to play that game on console instead of having a high-end PC to play it is a huge get. Like if they can get that, or
especially people that used to be PlayStation like Half-Life players, and now they're like in their 50s, their 40s,
right?
And they don't have a PC. They've got the PlayStation. Yeah.
Why not? Like release Half-Life 1 and 2 in VR as well while you're at it. You know what I mean? Like that'd be a great package.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that. Like the software could absolutely like push people to go and buy the headset. But like as an open end sort of cry like this, it just doesn't seem like the smartest idea to me. Especially if Xbox come along and they make a deal with Meta and they come out with Quest 3 and that comes out on the Xbox Series X. And you can do that wireless thing to the Xbox. It's like, hey, ours is wireless. It's like quarter the price. And, like what?
It's pretty much as good.
Yeah.
They could say that in the marketing. It's like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, they don't even have to, though. They don't even have to address it.
Most people would go, it's good enough for me. Yeah.
Like, you can plug in your Quest 2 that you've already got and stuff like that, because there'll be a bunch of people that just go out and buy the Quest 3 anyway. I know I'm absolutely in the market for one of those, like, when it comes out. Like,
when it comes out, yeah.
Like, if it's smaller, thinner, and it's got better graphics and stuff, and it's still wireless, and I can...
Latency's better.
Like, all that stuff, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm totally in. But the PlayStation 1, it just doesn't feel... Like, the price versus, like, the spec boost that it's got is reasonable, but I just don't believe that it needed those specs, is my point. I think there could have been better trade-offs, but obviously, like, the numbers will tell when people go out and buy this thing. I mean, obviously, I know like you've had a bit of a thought change on it, which is absolutely great as well. Like it's a valid point, absolutely. And there's going to be a lot of fans out there that are looking around at headsets and like, you know what, I really want to get into VR, but I just haven't had the
I'm less like, oh, that sucks, it's not for me, and I'm more like, oh, I understand who it's for now. Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. And there are there's plenty of like hardcore PlayStation fans that are waiting to jump into VR, and they're not going to buy a PC. They're not gonna buy a Quest because they think that it's lower powered and the games aren't there or whatever. So like there's absolutely a market for them. It's just how many of them.
If they're PlayStation people, there's just things that it's just not in their realm. It's just not in their universe. They don't know about it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we'll see. God knows.
Yeah. So yeah, we won't be buying it. Is the guess is the headline.
I'm not interested in it now. No. Like if it was $3.99, I might have picked one up. I would have been like, yeah, you know what? That's a reasonable jump from the $2.99 I played for Quest. Like playing, like going up to 400 from that. It's like, you know, that's reasonable. It's wired.
If it was 300 and they did a bundle with the console and Horizon, I'd definitely consider it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. We'll see. Hopefully Sony does well with it, because
back in the day they used to do bundles. Do you remember? Back in the day,
they still do bundles. They're just really expensive now.
Yeah, but the bundle, like, you'd save money. Yeah, that's the point. Now it's just like, hey, you can buy it all at the same time. How convenient is that? It's like, yeah, but there's no discount. Like,
right? What's the point of the bundle? It was a lot of that happens in Japan as well. Like if you go out and you buy like a 6-pack of beer or something in Japan, like if you buy the individual ones for like $1 or something, you can get like a pack of 6 of them, and it'll cost you $6, but it comes in a nice little carry case for you. And it's stuff like that. It's like, what is the point of the bundle? So much of that, but yeah, it's sort of a similar thing with that.
Well, I prefer that, but that's getting into a different thing about bundles and money and junk food multi-buy deals and things like that. Like maybe Japan have got that figured out where you're not allowed to discount multiple buys.
Probably.
Because it's unhealthy.
Yeah, I don't know how much law is sort of surrounded by it, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was illegal on some level. But Japan's just like that. They don't like, they don't like to sort of steal money from people, quote unquote. Like they don't want to get a deal for a lot of the time. They they like cheaper things, but it's not like the amount of times I've been chased down the street to give the tip, which I left to the waiter back, and stuff like that. I left your money, stuff like that, because they just don't like tips and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
Because it to them it's like charity, right? And giving people charity can also be like a bad point on the person giving it. So getting a bundle for free or something might be deemed
Maybe like I don't need a deal. I don't need a bundle. I can pay full price. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that.
So it's I think it's something to do with that. But yeah, I don't know. Fascinating. Different world though.
Yeah, we need to end multi bags of crisps and things in the UK. I think because it's cheaper than buying one bag of crisps.
I mean, this is what happened when you get Jamie Oliver like leading the charge on this. You know what I mean?
He
on school dinners, you know, like that whole movement that he did. It's like if there was anyone else that did that, they should have got a Gordon Ramsay to do it. If
they got Gordon Ramsay to do it, they're a bit more threatening.
I think so.
Like, it has scared the politicians. Yeah, put that bill through, you MPs, or I'll come for you.
Yeah,
we can't sweat too much.
No,
although Sam does when he's on the podcast, but
bless him, you can't help it.
Bless him. His little sweary head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's a good place to end then.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, let us know in the comments like what you think of the PlayStation VR2. Like, is it too expensive for you? Are you actually interested in this thing? I'd be really curious to see. I just, my gut reaction tells me that I will not pick this thing up. But
if you tell us, you have to tell us what demographic you're in. Like, have you got a Quest? Like, have you got a high end thing? Have you spent more? Is this gonna be the biggest purchase? Because that'd be interesting to know. Because I don't know anyone that's like, I've never bought a VR. I've seen it, I've heard about it, and I'm totally going to spend $500 on this.
I'm mostly interested in those people. The PlayStation 5 owners that don't have, they might have a PC for work or whatever, but it's not like a gaming PC. Like the console-only players that are looking at this thing and being like, you know what, I think it's time to jump into VR, and this is the one for me. Like, I want to know how many of those people there are. Because that is fascinating to me, like that core little demographic, because that's what they're aiming for. I just don't know if they're going to hit it. So I'll be curious to see what other people think of that.
Yep, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. Only like 20% of you subscribed, or like 18%.
How rude. I mean, do you know what's even worse than that? Seriously, the worst thing about all of that is that you are reading the stats on YouTube. That's a terrible idea. You shouldn't be doing that.
Sorry.
You should be ashamed. Yeah, speaking of being ashamed, where can people find you?
Follow me on Twitter. Speaking of shame, please follow me on Twitter, Acrylic Pixel, my YouTube channel, Acrylic Pixel. Join my Patreon and support my indie game, Focus Find, please.
Shameless plug.
And then I can leave my day job. That's the dream. What about you, Vin? Where can we find you and support you?
Yeah, you can find me at Hillfort Games, where I'm mostly ashamed of everything. But yeah, if you just Google that, you'll come across me. I'm on Twitter, YouTube. I'm also on TikTok.
Oh yeah, TikTok. Yeah, we got a Polygon Forest TikTok.
Oh, we do. Yeah, so you can go and follow us on there. We'll put little sound bites on there of us being nonsensical, as it were. And complaining about stuff, because that's what we apparently do. But yeah, Hillfort Games. You can also wishlist my game, Long Gone. It's on Steam. Go for gold. Hit the button. It makes indie devs very happy. It makes solo devs even happier. So please go and wishlist Long Gone. Go and wishlist Focus Find for Chris's project, of course. We would appreciate it very much. But if you require even less amount of a minimal effort, then just hit the subscribe button right below this video, and we would really appreciate that too. Because please like us. We're joking. We don't really care. We're still going to be here every week like we are every Sunday. And if I'm not going to be here, then someone else will, because Chris is just consistent as hell. I'm just terrible.
He's got nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. It's just needs a hobby, man. You just need to get out of the house, find yourself a girl, mate. Oh wait, you already did that. Get a hobby. Oh, you've already got one.
Completed it, mate. Completed
it. Achievement unlocked. Get a girl. All right, let's get out of here. This is dragging
on that bombshell.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. Sorry for all the ladies out there that were hanging on to any hope. Until next week, we appreciate your time as always. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.